Okay.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Breakfast by the Bay. My name is Jen, and behind the camera is Captain Eric, and we're here today to tell you all about plankton. The bay is full of plankton, and they're a really important organism. So we're going to chat a little bit about why they're so important, what they do for the bay, and even get to show you some plankton that we caught today right from the bay. So I'm just going to give us a minute to make sure that everybody's here and joining us that's going to join. And if you could give us a thumbs up or leave a comment down below, let us know you're here and ready. So we're going to be learning all about plankton today. What are plankton? What is it? Well, plankton are free-floating organisms that cannot swim against the currents. So these organisms just float around in the bay all day, and they go wherever the water's flowing, wherever the water takes them. We have two different groups of plankton. We have zooplankton. Zooplankton are the animal plankton. Then we have phytoplankton, and those are more like your plants that are in the bay. Now, zooplankton can either stay in this plankton form their whole life, and they always are floating around, or they can outgrow that stage, so they wouldn't float anymore. They would do something like swim and be stronger than the currents, or they might attach down to some hard surface and no longer move around at all. As long as they're not in that free-floating organism stage anymore, then they won't be considered a plankton any longer. And that's how a lot of the invertebrates in the bay start their life. Phytoplankton are smaller plants that float around in the bay as well. You'll notice in our definition that we didn't use the word small or microscopic, even though you might see a microscope set up over here. That's because not all plankton are in fact small and microscopic. There are some really large organisms, like some species of jellies, that are much larger, and you do not need a microscope at all to see them. You can see them just with your eyes. So why are plankton so important? Well, first of all, they're a huge source of food for animals in the bay. A lot of animals, those filter feeders, things like clams and mussels, they're going to suck in that water and filter out the plankton to eat it, and then spit out that water. And a lot of animals in the bay eat clams and mussels and things that eat the plankton. So they're a major source of food for pretty much all the life that's in the bay, whether they eat it themselves or if they eat animals that then eat plankton. The other important thing to think about is that these phytoplankton are types of plants. So, just like plants on land, they all produce oxygen. So when they're going through photosynthesis, using the sun's energy to make their food, they actually have oxygen left over, which is great for us to breathe, great for the animals in the water to breathe as well. And the animals that live in the water, they do need oxygen to breathe. So it's really important that we have these phytoplankton to produce oxygen and to put that oxygen into the water. That's how it gets there. We actually get more oxygen from the phytoplankton and plants in the water to breathe than we actually do from plants on land. So that's a cool little fact that I didn't know until I started learning more about plankton. But I want to show you some plankton because this is the real fun stuff. So come on over here. We use this big net here today to catch some plankton. Now, it doesn't really look like a net. To me, this looks like a plastic bag, but it does have super, super tiny holes in it. And that is so the water can be filtered through, but all of that plankton gets trapped inside here in the end, in the cod end. So this is a nice concentrated sample. Much more different than if you were to just go and get a scoop of water. So this is what we got today. And I'm going to actually leave it here because I think you can see it better against the white background. And it just looks really dirty water, right? But actually, we discovered that all that dirty looking water is really full of plankton. And here's our plankton on a slide of just 1 or 2 drops of water. So let's see now with our microscope setup. We have it set up to a camera, and our camera is projecting it out onto our television. So we're going to show you some of the plankton we caught today. I'm going to start off with some phytoplankton. Now we caught a bunch of phytoplankton. A lot of these phytoplankton today are things called diatoms. You can see that there's a bunch of the phytoplankton are attached together to form these chains, while some are more individual and can be on their own. We have some of these big round circles, something called coscinodiscus. And you can see here we have some chains that form sort of like a straight line. But then we also have some that are more kind of in a zigzag pattern, making some star shapes or some triangle shapes. So these diatoms can attach together and make different chains. They can be in different forms, different shapes.
Well, that's a good one there, Captain Jen. Let me just try to get a look at one of these bigger ones. There we go. All right.
Now what I want to do is switch my slide over to show you some zooplankton. So this is the super exciting part. All right, here we go. They are going to be moving faster on the screen. I will try to catch up with them. There we go.
There's some good.
So it looks like here we have either a copepod or a barnacle.
Heading off the bottom of the slide there. There we go. Excellent. Yeah, it looks to me like a copepodnopolis.
Awesome. This is just one stage of a copepod's life cycle. Let's see if we can find an adult, because I'm pretty sure I saw some around here earlier.
Whoa.
This is getting close to an adult.
That thing's pretty big.
It is.
I'm having trouble getting it on my screen.
Now, do remember that we are zoomed in quite a bit in our magnification here, so they're not this large in real life in the bay. You probably wouldn't even notice them if you were swimming around in the summertime. There's one. Where'd it go?
There he is.
All right. Oh, and there goes the adult copepod.
So I've heard that copepods, for their size, are one of the fastest animals on Earth. So adjusted to their size, they move faster than anything else. Oop, there he goes.
Ooh, something big up here.
Oop, right over. So, although the water is still very cold, if you think, our days are getting longer and the sun is getting higher in the sky, and that's putting more solar energy into our water, and that's what this phytoplankton is using for energy. So that's why in February we tend to have a little bit of a bloom of these phytoplankton. And of course, as long as there's phytoplankton, zooplankton are going to have food to eat. So These guys are gonna try to take advantage of the bloom of the phytoplankton, and then as the water gets warmer, they're going to already have a good head start. Not sure we're gonna get too great a picture here while they're swimming around. Maybe we can either move to one of our stored pictures or take a picture of one of these guys, Captain Jen.
Yeah, Captain Eric, can you come over here and show
Sure.
them what it looks like on the drop of water? You
Sure.
can see them moving around, but you can't see them well enough to actually identify what they are.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So that's what we're doing, and it's on the screen. It's magnified over 400 times, so they're about 400 times bigger than what we're seeing in here. And these are pretty big for zooplankton. Usually you're going to see these guys, they're going to be even smaller than this. Although some things like the larva of crab or crabzoea, they can get pretty big, and you can actually see those. You can even kind of sometimes even feel them when you're swimming if they get on your skin. We're just trying to find a couple pictures here because these guys are real cool. You can see our setup here. We've got a camera coming down into our microscope, and that is projecting over to an iPad. Right now we're just kind of going through some iPad pictures here, and we're looking for one that's got a good picture of some of our phytoplankton. Let's see. All right.
Here's our copepod friend.
That's a
little
little out
blurry.
of focus.
But yeah, you can actually see that this resembles the plankton from SpongeBob if you've ever seen it. They have two antennae, and then they do have one dot in the center there. And so that is where that was actually created and where that idea came from. So pretty cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. But that's about it we have for you for plankton today. If any questions come up, please feel free to leave them below in the comments, and we'll get back to you to answer those questions. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Breakfast by the Bay.